Hi, welcome to the Online Jewelry Academy. I'm Professor John R. and I'm your instructor. In this video, I want to introduce you to a really interesting project. It's a kinetic pendant. Kinetic meaning that this pendant will have an aspect of movement to it. And I have a finished example of it right here. And if I touch it and try to spin the top, you can see that the top disc moves freely. And if I flip it over, the back side moves freely as well. The only part that stays stationary is in the center. Now, if you look at this, it has a riveted bail to it. That's just a little bit of extra effort that was added to this project if you want to test all of your skills as a beginning jeweler to see if you're ready to advance to an intermediate level. All right, let me show you the pieces that comprise this project. Like I said, there are 3 layers. You have a top, a middle, and a back side. Now let's look at these closely for a second. The top has large cutouts. Just like a painting, things that are in the foreground are big, the things that are close to you. Things that are in the middle ground, medium size, and things in the background are going to be really small. So this will help to give the illusion of depth. Now all of the holes that were made on these discs were done with a drill. And each was initiated with a small pilot hole, and for these larger drill holes, they were made using a series of drill bits that graduated to larger and larger sizes. Doing that will keep you safe, because if you work with a small drill bit and immediately go to a large one, you're basically making a weapon, and you don't want to do that. All right, so let's look at how these pieces are going to be held together. I'm going to be using a piece of tubing and a small bezel cup, and I soldered them together to be a piece like this. Just a small little element that's going to have a top to it and an area that the discs can slide onto. And the bezel cup will hold a small cabochon stone. All right, let's talk about the most critical aspects of this project. The first is you need to find the center of each of these discs, and you're going to need a tool for that. Now you can use a template. Here I've made my own, and because I cut the 2 outer discs using my disc cutter, I went ahead and cut a disc out of this piece of metal and created the template. That way I could just drop a piece in and easily find the center. Likewise, because I've made it to accommodate a centerpiece as well, I can do the same thing with all of the different layers of the piece. Okay, so let's step over to the engraving block now, and I can show you how the pieces are put together. Now, you could do this on a vise. I'm just using this because it's convenient for me, but I want to show you that in the center of my engraving block, I have the head of a small nail protruding. And what that's going to enable me to do is I'm going to be able to place my piece that I made by fusing or I should say by soldering the bezel cup to the piece of tubing. Now what I can do is I can work backwards. So I'm going to take the first layer with the largest holes and place it onto that piece of tubing. Then I can take the center layer, that stationary layer, and add it. And then finally, I can come over here with my back layer, and now I'm ready to close the piece. To do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a center punch into the hole of the back side of the piece of tubing. And then what I can do is just lightly wrap it with a hammer, and what this does is it flares the tubing over the top of the back of the back disc. Okay, so now we can take it off, and you can see that we have nice movement between the layers. There we go. All right, so the next thing that I need to do is I need to set the cabochon into the center of the piece. So I'll remove the nail, and now I'm going to use some little pins on the top of my engraving block to basically just hold the piece steady and tight while I set the stone. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a wax stick to bring over the cabochon stone and place it into the bezel cup. There we go. I'll give it a little bit of a wipe to get rid of any of the microcrystalline wax that's on top of it. And now all I need to do is just set the bezel. We have a video on this. It's super easy. All I'm doing is I'm hitting the cardinal points of the bezel. So north, east, south, and west. And then I just rock the gaps with the bezel rocker. And that will just close it off and make it look absolutely beautiful. There's a nice blue stone in the center of my piece. All right. And there it is. Now this project can be stepped up to be even more complex and more challenging. So if you're an intermediate trying to graduate to being an advanced student, or if you're an advanced student trying to just make something super cool, let me make a suggestion, and here it is. You can make a piece of jewelry that holds a secret or tells a little bit of a story. And in this case, what I've got is a layout for that type of a piece. Now, if you look at it, what I've done is I've stylized some numbers and laid them out in very precise locations. So I have 0, 2, 1, 0, 1, 8. So this is February 10th, 2018. So maybe that's your anniversary date. Now what I've done is I've divided this up so that the piece will have great movement. Let me show you what I mean. Here's the middle layer. And if I lay it on top of my draft of the piece, you can see how half of this 0 is covered and the other half of this 0 is covered, and I still have my bail up here. Now what I want to do is to bring on another layer. And this could be the top or the bottom layer. And here what you can see is I've got the 8, the 2, and the other half of the 0. And notice that I've laid them out so that they're equally spaced apart. I've tried to keep the weight of the piece somewhat even so that it has more potential to turn. So let's lay that over our draft. And there you can see that that's covered. And all that's left is half of the 0 and the 2 1s. And I'll bring those on top. Okay, so that's the piece. Now let me pull it back over on the black so you can see what it looks like. Okay, there it is. Now, if you notice down here, I have a little bit of a notch. So if you were to take this design, scan it, and reduce it on your computer, or even just put it on top of a photocopier and reduce it, and maybe print it onto crack and peel labels, then you would be able to pierce it out from a piece of sheet metal. But the cool thing is that once it's on somebody's neck, here I'll stick a pin through all these pieces, what's going to happen is that this piece is going to have a lot of movement to it because you've really planned it so that things are well placed and balanced and centered so that you achieve as much kinetic movement as possible. Okay, so now I've got my pin in the back, and you can see sometimes this pendant is just going to look wacky to people. As things spin around, they won't know what the heck that is. But then if you take the time to find your notches, so there's one notch, let's find this one, it's way over here. And you could do this with a fingernail on your neck, and you can see that you can bring it back into alignment so that the secret of the piece is revealed. You could even get more crazy by making images appear or whatever your imagination can come up with. I hope you like this project. If you do, be sure to like the video. You can find other great videos on our website at onlinejewelryacademy.com. And if you're not already a subscriber, click the button in the lower right-hand corner and you'll instantly become a subscriber and get weekly notifications of new videos. We regularly post to Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you want to support the production of future videos, you can help us by making a contribution at patreon.com. Thank you for watching.